Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ben, amateur call sign K0BJJ, and you're watching Spotter Jutting. We are going to be doing a series on this channel for emergency communications, different things to think about if you're considering getting into EmComm, and if you are considering doing different aspects of radio other than what you're currently doing, or maybe you're considering getting into radio because of emergency communications or other aspects. If that is what you are here for, please stay tuned for the video to follow. If you are here for something else, check out one of our many other playlists. We do a lot of parks on the air videos as well as storm spotting on this channel, so please consider checking out that content. And with that, let's get to your video. So this video specifically is going to be about getting started with emergency communications. We are going to talk about what are some of your goals when it comes to getting involved with emergency communications. We're going to be talking about some different things as far as equipment-wise you might want to consider. So what are your goals? Do you want to get into this for storm spotting? Do you want to be disaster relief or help with the management of a disaster relief? Do you want to help with community events? Emergency communications doesn't necessarily have to mean a devastating event. It's just an event that needs communications on short notice or an emergency. There you go. Do you want to get into this to help with your at-home or shelter-in-place? Maybe you and 5 neighbors all want to be able to communicate if something happens, and you're going to go about making a plan to how to make that happen. Or is this just like a family communications? Maybe you and your wife travel for work and you need a way to stay in touch, or want something like that. Kids at school, maybe you want a backup line of communications in order to stay connected with the family in case something happens. All of these reasons, and there's way more, are good to talk about, but you need to figure out what your goals are. Maybe you have multiple goals. I got into radio because of storm spotting, and I wanted to help the community. Community events actually was one of the reasons I considered becoming a ham, and same with the storm spotting. Storm spotting was number one for me, but it's branched off in several different things. So just things you need to consider about what's best for you. Other things you need to consider is what kind of communications do you want to do? If you want to get involved with radio, and specifically, there's the Amateur Radio Emergency Service, or ARES. There's the Military Auxiliary Radio Service, or MARS. There's the Radio Amateur Emergency Service, or RACES. And then there's the Auxiliary Emergency Communications, or AUXCOM. All the programs are similar in the aspect that they use radios to communicate, but they differ in operating styles. So do you want to get involved with one of these groups? And 2, what kind of operating style do you want to fall under? I specifically will talk about ARES because that is my experience. But you might want to consider this. If you're ex-military, maybe AUXCOM or MARS is better for you. What you want to do just depends on what you do, and there's a ton of resources about all of these programs, and there's more programs out there that, to look up. So check into what styles are right for you. Maybe you don't want to be involved with the program. Maybe you just want to do your own thing and you're out here looking for information. That's fine. That's fine. The next kind of question that I'm going to bring up, though, is when it comes to, you've picked a program, you've picked what you want to do, what are you willing to spend for your goals? Now, you can go to Walmart and you can find some relatively cheap family radio service, or FRS radios, and you can communicate a mile, maybe 2. A handful of miles. It's very short distance tactical communication that does not require any kind of licensing. You could take the next step up, and you can go with the general mobile Radio Service, or GMRS. I think I got that abbreviation, the definition right. That does require a license, but it does not require a test. You register with the FCC, you get a family license, you're good to go. These radios push out a little bit more power. You have a little bit better range communications. Also, these radios benefit from having mobile stations, which can extend your distance a little bit better than FRS. And then we have the ham radios. So ham radios range in price from $35, which is a cheap little Baofeng UV5R. As far as handheld goes, you can get one of these mid-range Anytone 878s, which are about $300, $300 to $400, and then there's handheld radios that are closer to $1,000. So you have a really wide price range as far as handhelds go. You have mobiles, which push out more power. This is a 5-watt radio. I think it's 7-watt on turbo. So you have an option like this that's 5 to 7-watt handheld. Then you also have mobiles like I have in my truck, which is a 50-watt. Depending on the mobile, you can get a 75-watt. I mean, the more power you have and the better antenna you have, especially once you're in the 2 meter, 70 centimeter or VHF, UHF radios, the more distance you're going to get. I can talk 45 miles on my mobile radio, and I can talk 15 if I'm lucky on the handheld. So there's your difference, power and antenna. And this is not the antenna that came with this radio. This is an upgraded antenna that helps me reach out further. So, and then you got to think about, again, if you want to get in a ham, you have to have a license. You're going to test for that. And that is one you're going to license. So a technician style license will get you UHF, VHF, which is short to intermediate distance communication. I'm going to say, depending on your setup, between 5 feet and 100 miles, depending on a bunch of different circumstances. I've talked from Des Moines to southern Minnesota on a 50-watt mobile, but conditions had to line up just right for that to happen. And then you can talk about, okay, long-range communication. So then you're going to get in your high frequency, which again, this is ham. So you're looking at radios that range from $300 to $400 up into the multiple thousands for high frequency. Again, that's a testing license. That would be your general class license or more. You're going to have to test into that and become a FCC registered ham operator. So what are you willing to spend? And you don't need to rely necessarily on one. So you might have a FRS radio from Walmart for your immediate household, just being around your local neighborhood, and you might have an HF ham radio to talk to your family 3 states over in the case of emergency. You might have the mobile radio for, intermediate area communications. You might have the mobile radio to talk to National Weather Service. So what are you willing to spend? What do you want to do? All really big pictures. Another thing is, are you willing to test for the license? If you want a radio and you don't want to put any testing into it, you just want a license, GMRS, FRS is for you. But you're not going to have the range as the ham licensed individuals are. So you got to consider that. And are you willing to obtain any kind of training for emergency communications? There's different groups around the country, around your local area, that use radios for different things. Are you willing to join up with one of those groups for emergency communications? Now, I personally, when I got into ham radio, it was for storm spotting. The National Weather Service in Des Moines does have a DMR, which is digital mobile radio. It's a type of 2 meters, 70 centimeter communications that runs through an internet relay to communicate with them. And I did not know about the DMR at the time, but that's why I got my initial license. I linked up with a local team in my area. At the time of this recording, I am running the local team in my area. But this is how we go about with our storm spotting operations and disaster management and relief. So a bunch of different things to think of. I know I briefly went over this, but looking at recording time and whatnot, I don't want this to run too long. Just some things you want to think about when you're thinking about getting in the emergency communications. I'm going to push the ham radio world as hard as I can, just because that's what I am. I believe ham radio is the way to go for emergency communications. You don't need internet. You need another person on the other end with one of these. That's it. I need another person on the other end with one of these radios, and I am good to go with emergency communications. Now, there's one that could say the DMR world, I need to have internet, but emergency communications is what you make of it. It is what you put your time into it. And if you're watching this, you're considering getting involved with emergency comms on some kind of level. It just depends what you want to do. Now, if you have any specific questions, feel free to drop the questions in the comments below. I will gladly respond to you. And I will, if there's enough questions, maybe we'll do a follow-up video. Our next video is going to talk specifically about storm spotting. So if you like that, that'll be carded right up here once it's out. Thank you for watching this video on emergency comms. I hope to help. And like I said, if you have any questions, comment below. I will get to you. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.